Hello, I am Teri Cohan, Link Principal of LINKCO. Welcome, good afternoon, good evening, and good morning for those of you joining us from other sections of North America and around the globe. Thank you for attending the webinar, Key Solutions Every Business Needs to Manage Risk Now with Andrea Ryan, who I will introduce in a few moments. This webinar is part of a series born out of insights shared by business leaders during conversations about the current and dynamically shifting COVID business climate. The conversations resulted in a timely white paper entitled Resilient Realism, which LINKCO recently published. This is my way of giving back and sharing relevant information I learned speaking with business leaders on a day-to-day basis as part of my ongoing executive search practice. These anonymously shared challenges, lessons learned, and opportunities identified are highlighted in the white paper. The summary of the white paper is on my website, and if you want to delve in, just drop me a line and I will send it to you. In the wake of COVID-19, many of the respondents have been grappling with changing economics related to their assets, products, and services, remote workforces, new challenges of workflow and timetables, particularly now with the second wave of COVID-19, how to evaluate risk, work product best practices to reassure clients and protect employees, protect assets, and keep everyone safe, cybersecurity and privacy from offsite locations, how to lead remotely with loved ones sharing workspace, and unanticipated demands on normal work time. The changing office environment, in addition, to note but a few of the insights, disruptors, and challenges discussed in the white paper. Today's webinar focuses on software and other technology-related solutions your organization can and should be consider using to minimize the increased amount of risk we all face during these uncertain times. With focus on technology, we're going to speak about COVID-19, other business risks, including climate change and economic uncertainty. The next webinar in the series will be on November 18th with Matthew Stanislaus, Interim Director of the Global Battery Alliance of the World Economic Forum, entitled How Battery Innovation Creates Economic and Social Opportunity and Mitigates Climate Risk. A little housekeeping. Some of you have kindly shared your questions beforehand, and we already have a number in the queue. You may also send questions and comments in the Q&A box, and if not covered already, Andrea will try to answer those during the session. And now let me introduce our speaker. Andrea Ryan is co-founder of the Small Business Partners. With over 25 years of experience working with small, medium, and large organizations on processes and tools to manage marketing, sales, customer support, and operations management, she spent 21 years focused on process and software improvements for the customer care department of a Fortune 100 company and co-founded the Small Business Partners in 2017 to help smaller companies address the same pain points that plague every business: fundamental processes and easy-to-use tools that help a business or organization operate more efficiently. The Small Business Partners provides a white glove experience to help smaller companies and nonprofits that gets key business processes and activity off paper, out of email, and into cloud-based software platforms that can be accessed by any user from any location. And now let me transfer to Andrea.
Hi there, Teri. How are you?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And I hope you will accept the transfer. There you are.
I'm here. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. So I want to get started by asking you, what motivated you to make the jump from a career in big business to focusing your efforts on small business solutions?
So I was on the merger and acquisition train with a Fortune 100 company in the telecom industry for about 21 years, and I think after you go through a couple of those, you get a little worn down. And the work that I do is really bringing change. I've been doing the same type of work that we're going to talk about today with big companies, and I think with my desire to walk away from the culture of not all of corporate America, but to walk away from what the culture had become, and my desire to really make an impact, and also knowing that small businesses can benefit so much from the solution. I think all of that passion just gave me the courage to make the leap.
And following up on that, from the work you're doing with small businesses and now via your COVID risk app with larger organizations, also, what types of companies and organizations are thriving and or have figured out what actions they need to enact to pivot successfully, or as McKinsey called it, emerging resilience?
And the best answer to that is all the things that we would like to talk about today. The resiliency of a business, especially during these challenging times. We have all of these challenges that have become a part of the new normal. We have the risk of COVID on our employees and on our customers. We've got climate change that again, unpredictable, not able to plan around that, and the economic uncertainty that results from both of those. It's really, really important for businesses to be able to survive the challenging times by focusing more on what I call cleaning up the backyard, and that's getting things off of paper, getting them out of email, being able to, in an efficient way, manage risk for your company. And without a focus on the right process and tools for these things, it becomes very difficult for a business to do, especially for anything that has a lot of manual work involved. It makes any pivot or agility that a business needs to rapidly adapt to changes very quickly becomes difficult when everything is scattered all over the place and your core business processes are not connected.
As a follow-up to that, one of our attendees asked, how are you helping businesses to define their new normal, and when is the new normal going to end?
Well, let me take the harder part of that question and say, I wish I knew. I think that's the question that we all want to know. But I think the best thing we can do is it's beyond being prepared for it. We have to make sure that our business adapts fast. And the advice that I give to my clients is, there are two areas that you really have to focus on for that resiliency. And that is your sales process, because consumer spending is down. And, there's been significant revenue impacts to many, many businesses, unfortunately, across the board. With consumer spending being down, you have to focus on the sales process. You have to make sure you have visibility into your sales pipeline. And then again, you can't underestimate the customer experience. You have to make sure that you're very, very focused on the customer experience as well, because you want to keep your existing customers coming back. You don't want to lose them to the competition. So you really want to focus on a lot of that waste with manual processes. And, as far as COVID goes, keeping your employees safe is just, you can't put a price tag on that. It's something we all have to do, not only because it's the right thing, because it is, mandated by some health departments, by many health departments across the country. So having the right tools in place is so important. And I think it really lines up with a lot of the studies that you're mentioning. I think the things that I'm hearing from my clients are, and where I'm advising them lines up with, some of the biggest experts and the feedback that they're providing.
And perhaps at this point, it would be great if you could share your slides, because I think on a visual level, it would be helpful for our attendees to see some of the examples you've prepared for today.
Absolutely. So thank you. I am going to go ahead and share my slides, and I would just like you to confirm that you can see that in slideshow mode.
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so thank you, Teri. So as we discussed, unfortunately, this is our new normal, and we're all anxious to understand what's on the other end of this. But COVID, climate change, all of the economic uncertainty, it has just never been more important for businesses to really leverage technology to adapt and to survive. So we're going to talk about COVID risk management first. The most common regulations for businesses, and the bullet points here are actually, and these will be provided as a follow-up, were really lifted right from this source link that I gave you here. And this is the Department of Health for the state of California, their guidelines for all businesses. And some of them are very vague. And that's why I really wanted to call them out, because there's a lot of businesses that don't know that there are expectations. But first, the ability to identify and track any suspected cases amongst all of your employees or workers, reporting confirmed cases where appropriate, working with local health departments. But the last three bullets there are what are really, really important. And this is the segue to the software that we want to show you as one of the best practices that's out there to do this well. You have to screen your employees every day. You have to perform a detailed risk assessment. You have to have a safety plan. And to take that even further, you need a communications platform to help you quickly communicate when employees are at risk and to be able to communicate your safety plan. It's up to each company to set up individual controls and measures. And here is the last one. Those records and those assessments must be stored electronically. And if there is a report through contact tracers and your business is contacted by contact tracers, they're going to look for these records electronically. And although I'm on the other end of the country in New York State, my county, because I live in Buffalo, New York, I live in Erie County, they're starting to find a lot of businesses for this. We have aggressive contact tracing, which is resulting in interactions with businesses, and the regulatory agencies are asking for the records, and it is a mass fire drill for companies to try and comply with this. And like I said, there's a lot of fines that are being issued. So a lot of people don't know about this. This was really the reason for the application that we're going to show you. And I think that's it on this slide. So let's talk about managing COVID risk in the workplace. This is what a lot of companies are doing. Email, paper sign-off forms, Excel spreadsheets. There's a lot of risk with this because when you have to provide electronic records, it's a fire drill to pull this together. Some companies are using SurveyMonkey or some other similar tool. The downside of this is, although there are some alerts and notifications, to really be able to build the automated alerts and notifications that need to go out when an employee is at risk and who needs to know, this solution isn't quite there. And then there's some companies, some of you already have platforms that you have been able to modify to make that work. The risk with that is that only works for your employees. If you have customers or visitors that are visiting a physical location and they're interacting with your employees, there's a miss there on the customer side because an internal application doesn't work very well externally, and customers and visitors would be considered external. And then when you're taking on software, it's hard, and every business is stretched so thin right now. This isn't easy for anyone to deal with or manage. So, introducing new technology, getting it up and running, getting everybody trained, that's a huge challenge for businesses. So, a lot of businesses that have tried some of the products that have come out to market are now looking for something that's a little bit simpler and easier because they're struggling with getting people to use the tool. So some of the best practices, each employee should be assessed for risk daily. Again, this is the guideline, and it should be prior to the start of any activity that involves interacting with others. Don't forget about customers or visitors, even the UPS guy. If you have people that are coming into the same physical location of your employees, you need to stay in touch with them for 2 weeks following their interaction as a best practice, because these people have interacted with your employees. And if those customers that had an interaction are at risk, you need to know and your employees need to know. Real-time alerts and notifications, super important when someone is at risk. Finding the right balance of maintaining privacy of information, HIPAA compliance, all that good stuff, not sharing what shouldn't be shared. But when someone is at risk, the individual that is at risk needs to immediately know what the safety instructions are that they should follow. For example, don't come into work, wait until you get a phone call. And then there are people in a business or an organization that need to know if there's a department leader or head and there is a case of COVID on that individual's team, that department manager needs to know. So you have to think about all the different things that need to happen when you have an at-risk scenario, and quick, instant communication is critical for success. And again, like I said earlier, employees need to know what steps to follow. And then again, most importantly, you have to have those records stored electronically. Teri, should I keep going, or are there any?
Yes, I think so, because sorry, I don't mean to be talking over you.
That's okay.
Yes, because the questions that I'm seeing are actually right now on this: how are your clients managing their new normal? And I think that this is a perfect example of how they are doing this. So please continue. And
Okay,
as
great.
more questions come through, I will share them with you. Thanks for
Okay.
checking.
No problem. So the key features to look for in this solution, again, being able to assess your customers, your visitors, and in your employees. It's that whole pool of those that interact together that you have responsibility for. The other important element is the ability to create a customized survey. One size does not fit all. There's some solutions out there that just have a very canned survey that you can use, and it just becomes so repetitive that you have to be concerned about the accuracy of the responses. So, looking for a solution that really allows you to customize survey questions, the ability to change the order of those questions to keep people on their toes. So, being able to ask the right questions for your employees and your customers that are right based on the unique needs of your business is just critical. And then,
Andrea,
yes.
sorry, one question that's come up: how what are you recommending as your best practices for how a company determines what those questions are? Who do they turn to create that important list?
A great question. So some Department of Health websites will have a little bit more meat on that, where they'll actually go, the information I showed you was very big. Some health departments, I think when you start to drill down and look at things at a county level, you might get more detailed. But the application that I'm going to show you stays ahead of the curve by providing the best practice questions pre-formatted that make it very easy for a business to know, okay, what should I be asking people? And then we offer the application that I'm going to show you is also offers the ability to create your own custom questions. Some businesses may be engaged. Chambers of commerce are also great sources of this information. We're very active in our chamber, and we collaborated with them quite a bit on this application because they do a great job of pushing information like this out to businesses. So with all those relationships and connections that we have, the application that I'm going to share with you has that accounted for by serving up, here's what's an industry best practice, but let's go ahead and tailor this to meet your specific needs.
I'm so excited that we get to demo this on this webinar. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the next key feature is the channel, and the channel is the communication channel. Are you going to communicate with your employees, your customers, and your visitors via text message or email? Another scenario where one size doesn't fit all. Some of the users of the application that I'm going to show you in just a few minutes, I have clients that about 80 to 90% of their population wants to use mobile, but some people do not want to use their mobile phone, especially when you have a situation where an employee doesn't have a company provided phone. So the solution that you look for to address your needs has to be flexible and has to be able to do both. Because again, one size never will fit all. Email will work for some people, and mobile phones will work better for others, specifically customers. I think that covers the last point. And then we've already talked about the importance of the alerts and the notifications. So I think at this point, we should get right into the demo. Teri, do you have any questions for me?
I will after we see the demo. They're beginning to come through again.
Okay. Teri, can you just verify that you are seeing the COVID risk
I
management
am.
tool? Okay,
I
great.
am.
So this is a tool, and a part of my story and my journey is this is I'm a business that's been in operation for almost 4 years, and this is the first application in this. This is our first custom application that is going to market. I work with a lot of clients one-on-one and do this type of work, and we have worked very closely with a lot of the groups that we have shared with you, chambers of commerce, business owners, colleges and universities. We've looked at solutions out there. And those best practices that I've guided you all through are all baked into an application that we're very proud and very grateful to share with you. So this is the COVID risk management application, and this is a tool that can be used to assess contacts. Contacts could be employees, they could be visitors, they could be customers. There's different types of contacts that any business would need to assess. I am showing you an administrator view of the application, and one thing I want to quickly explain is you have two key roles in a program, because this really is a program. You need a tool, you need a safety plan. It's a risk management program for every single business. And the important elements are making sure that you have administrators that are monitoring the process, and then you have the individuals that have to complete the assessments. And we'll use an employee as an example for this demo. So I, as an employee, will only see, I get a log into this to this portal, but I'm only going to see my assessments. I can't see anyone else's data. I can't see anyone else's information. So what happens with an administrator is I get dashboards, reporting, I see everyone's data. So there's a huge difference, and this is an administrative view that I'm showing you. So the importance of a dashboard is to let a business that uses this application see, who do I have that is at risk? And I'm just going to expand the search here. So just bear with me for just a second. So who did I assess that's at risk? This is a dashboard widget that will take you directly to that data. So this is just test data here. This, again, provides the information and reporting on who is the individual, how do I get in touch with them, what question did they respond to, And there's also a follow-up element that is going to allow you to capture follow-up related data, which is very, very important for compliance, because if someone's at risk, you have to follow up and you want to capture what your follow-up was. So the at-risk widget allows you to see any surveys that were, and I have a little bit of a hyperactive mouse right now. Bear with me. That's what I get for a new battery. So then some of the other things that I can see with this application is who checked in late. And what this ties to is employees need to be assessed before they come into the building if they're not a remote employee. If they're a hybrid employee, you still want to assess them because there will be some physical interaction. So each business is really able to set up the rules for their, how their surveys are going to work. But again, a key element that I need to be able to measure and monitor is who checked in late. If most of my employees are coming in the door at 8:30 in the morning, you want them to complete their assessment before they come in. And we're able to say who didn't do that, who missed their check-in entirely, who just didn't complete the assessment. Each one of these widgets goes to a detailed report that is going to give you all the information you need to see. So again, we've got this will tell you who the contact is, their contact information, and what time their assessment was actually completed. And the arrival time would show the time that they were supposed to complete it. Again, this is a demo system, and some of the data populates very well when you try to mimic scenarios and some doesn't. But each one of the dashboard elements has that information. We offer flexibility for businesses to define what they want to see. All of these widgets, you can move them around so you can see them in the order that you want to see them. And you can also add and remove widgets because, again, every business is different. This is something new that's coming next week, a map feature. If you have employees scattered across a larger geographic area and you need to be able to measure risk visually and see, oh my gosh, I've got a hot spot over here, the map feature will be very useful for that. And there's some other visual, and again, I've got to change my date range here. There's some other visual elements like a symptom breakdown that will allow you to see. And again, what we're doing is slicing and dicing the data into different views to give business owners flexibility to manage risk in their business the way they need to manage risk.
May I jump in for a question? Or do you
sure
want me to?
can. Yes.
So
It's
one,
perfect time.
based on what you just said, let's say that one of your clients' situation changes in their state, and all of a sudden their county health system is requiring them to finesse what their risk protocol, to change perhaps the survey. How robust is this system to be able to accommodate those types of changes?
Perfect timing on that question because that was the last feature that I was going to demo. One of the other things, which if you recall, we talked about just a few minutes ago, is you have to have flexibility. First of all, guidelines and regulations are changing fast. As soon as they learn something else about this virus with the data that they're able to study, again, it just presents another opportunity for health departments for, like you said, like you had indicated, to change things up. We allow you to customize. It's very easy to customize the survey. So this is actually the survey setup. So let me show you what this looks like from a preview perspective. We have a primary assessment question that you have the opportunity to ask a one question. Think customers. Yes, no. If I'm not at risk, I don't have to answer anything else. And I just draw my signature. This is the preview version. That's why the signature isn't working. But when you're completing it from a PC or a mobile, from your mobile phone, the signature box will capture the signature. And then if I answer yes, I can decide as a business, what else do I want to ask people? And we currently are allowing, I think the limit is over 30 questions. We also offer the ability to change the order of the questions to eliminate some of that survey fatigue that sometimes results in you not getting accurate responses. And then again, we provide the ability to very quickly edit. And I'm just going to just show you how easy it is. Are you short? So I'm just changing this question slightly. And let's just say today. I'm going to go ahead and update that. And then when I preview the form, that change, it's probably going to take about 2 or 3 minutes for the preview view to catch up with us. Just because, again, now it's flowing through the system. That will update live on the form. So it's very, very easy to, we have a lot of, and you can see this is a little bit complex, and this is why we really work with the business to understand how do you want to use this? What do your questions need to show? But the end result is this, which is what this application is making it very, very easy for businesses to get it up and running because it's simple and easy to use. And that's one of those huge challenges, adopting new technology. But again, we're a small business and we developed this for smaller organizations. And when I say smaller organizations, I'm talking about not Fortune 100 companies. They have probably spent millions of dollars on their own tools, or Fortune 500 companies. It's really the rest of the world that can't afford the expensive solutions, but really has to keep their employees safe. So this was really designed with the smaller organization in mind. And as far as Teri, if there's anything else you think you would that you need me to address, if there's any other questions, I'm going to go back into the PowerPoint presentation and we'll start to address topic 2.
That would be great. And if something comes up later, I will share it with you. Let me continue with my next question in the queue. In a recently published article analyzing business risk during the pandemic, it suggested that organizations can be successful if they rewire the ways they work, reimagine the organizational structure, and readapt talent. Are you seeing this occur? And how does a virtual toolbox help facilitate the rewiring referred to here?
So yes, I am seeing that occur across the board with the businesses that I visit as a consumer, the businesses that I interact with as part of, professional relationships, and as well as with my clients. It's just really a matter of how well a business is doing. And it all comes down to the tools that you're using. And your questions are so well timed. That really, we're going to start to talk a little bit more about this virtual toolbox and how important it is for every business, because, we'll just give a very simple scenario. You have to figure out, unfortunately, a lot of businesses are scaling their staff back. They're reducing hours. Businesses are leaner. A lot of businesses are leaner. Some of them are getting back, but some businesses have or they're either leaner with staff, or because consumer spending is down, their revenue is down, so they have to figure out where they can cut costs to continue to keep revenue at a pace where the business can survive. So the most important area to start looking for, I call it the low hanging fruit, is the waste. The waste is the paper processes, the manual, the repetitive tasks. I've got a slide here that I'm going to go to. The cost of doing nothing and the cost of a manual process. This is a really lower, much more on the lower hourly rate. I mean, just double this and say I've got 3 employees that are wasting 2 hours a day. The cost to a business is huge, huge. So doing nothing and just keeping things the way that they are, when again, there's low hanging fruit out there, and you have to be more agile, and you have to reimagine the way that you do business, which in my world and with my science, reimagining how you do business is your process and your tools. You can't reimagine anything, whether it's staff, I want to introduce a new product. You really can't do that without the right tools. So let me go back. So now I want to talk about the customer experience, but I'll check in with you, Teri, because I'm just humming along. Any other questions, or am I good to continue?
You're brilliant to continue. I'll just throw in here and you can answer it as it works. As a follow-up to this last question, how are your clients using their new business tools to engender more confidence with their vendors and clients? Some of the studies coming out recently are indicating that customers out there, your other people's clients want to know that the businesses they're doing businesses with, so B2B type opportunities, are secure, that these tools are intact, that they're able to work remotely, digitally, successfully. What are you seeing out there in that regard?
There's a lot of people that are struggling. The biggest thing is PC. So there's a lot of businesses that have internal information that you can only get from the PC at the office. So that's cloud-based tools, versus the old-fashioned stuff where it's,
Right.
I think and I was thinking of a term that I haven't heard in a while: thin client versus thick client, where thin client is now cloud based. So we know these as tools that you can access from anywhere. And thick clients, that old term that we use, are applications that are installed on a PC that employee has to go into a physical location to have access to. So that requires a lot of thinking to make sure that if you can't move to cloud-based tools or move some of your process to a cloud-based program, it's a lot to think about. It's an added cost, and it is not cheap to be able to allow a VPN. It's not cheap to set any of that up. So it really, again, it goes back to those that have made the upfront investment of time and money to connect their tools. When COVID started, I think there were a lot of people that just weren't ready for it. And we're a good many months in, and a lot of businesses have realized, okay, I've got to start using video conferencing. Then there's the curve of everybody learning video conferencing etiquette. But again, it goes back to that simple concept that the people that are using, and even if it's only a part of their tools platform, if they're using cloud-based tools, they're doing much better. If they're not using cloud-based tools, it's just such a huge challenge for them. And it's a consistent trend that I see.
Please continue.
Okay. So the customer experience, we're going to talk a lot more about these cloud-based tools again, all the studies, Teri's got great questions, and she's referencing some studies done by very large organizations that have surveyed a lot of people. And, let's talk about how the importance of these virtual toolboxes. And let's take out the fact that we got to make sure that our employees can operate from anywhere. If they're in a swamp and they have an internet connection, they need to be able to work. That's only one part of it. The other part is the customer experience. And like I said earlier, it's never been more important to keep new customers coming in the front door and keeping your existing customers from leaving you. These are the questions that I like to ask business owners. What would you do and business leaders as well? What would you do if your top sales rep left you tomorrow? And the response or the body language on that question is usually indicative of how mature that company's process is. And do they even know what their top sales rep has in his sales pipeline? Do they have all his contacts? Do they know what stage each one of his open deals? And that gets into the second pipeline. Do you know, as a business leader, if you're responsible to manage sales or consume any of the revenue related information for your company, How many open sales opportunity are in your pipeline? What types of sales opportunity are they? What stage are they all at? These are the things that allow a business to be agile and nimble. If you know the answer to these questions, you're using tools that are connected. What issues are driving customer churn, and what are you doing to fix them? If all of your customer follow-up, complaints, and even compliments, the good stuff, if that's all scattered in email, you don't really have a good holistic view of what drives volume, because any customer support is not a revenue generating operation in your company. It's a cost. Support doesn't make money. So you have to be really clean and crisp, understanding what does your support look like? What do all those issues look like? What types of issues? How long is it taking us to resolve them? And where do we need to improve our process to make sure these things don't happen again? That's how you, as a business, start to take a look at your business through the lens of, I have to reduce costs. I have to be more agile. I have to be more nimble. This is what I call the low hanging fruit. And there's a lot of free and low cost solutions that are out there to capture and track sales activity. And I'm going to talk about a few of them in just a moment. The lingo that you typically hear these referred to as, and I refer to this as an old school term because they've literally become operating systems for businesses. It's a CRM platform. CRM stands for customer relationship management. And a lot of people, I've never liked this term in the small business world because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I've heard about that, but they think it's for big companies. Every company has a customer experience to manage. So these tools are more important for smaller operations that have slimmer profit margins, and they have to be much more disciplined with costs because they don't have the levels of revenue that the larger companies have to waste on that stuff. Next is the common pain points. And then Teri, after this slide, I'll pause for any questions before we get into, I think, the few last remaining slides and any other questions. So these are the common pain points across all businesses, no matter what type of industry or what your business does. If you are using software, which, hopefully every business is using some type of software, they don't talk to each other. And it takes a lot of time. It costs a lot of time and money to manage. And then you have blind spots because if things don't talk to each other, you have to have somebody smart enough that's able to take all that data from all the individual applications and pull it all together and let it tell the story that it needs to tell. So if you don't have applications that are talking to each other, and I'll give you an example of, let's think about the customer journey. I'll talk to you about the customer journey and I'll give you a great example for the COVID app that I just demoed to you. The customer journey with that process starts with a one-on-one consultation. So the first thing I want to know is, where did I get the lead from? Did it come from my website? Did it come from Google Ads? Because I want to know, if I'm spending money on Google Ads, how much of that is converting into real customers. So, I need to be able to allow customers to schedule time on my calendar for a consultation without them having to email me or call me. Then I need to be able to capture all that information. Then I need to be able to provide them a quote. Then I need to be able to work with the business one-on-one to get their survey set up. Then I need to know who all their contacts are. If I didn't have a system that connected that entire process, setups would take me a week, and I need to be able to turn them around in hours, not days. So that's just an example of some of the different business processes. And if I was using MailChimp for my emails, and then I was using Calendly for my scheduling system, and then if I was using QuickBooks for my quotes and my financial transaction managing, I would have to have somebody take data out of all three of those applications to answer one question. Where are my leads coming from? And what is my return on investment for my marketing spend? How many of the leads that are coming in are converting? These are basic questions that every business needs to be able to answer. And the only way to efficiently do that is with a connected software platform. So customer interactions, If it's scattered all over the place, when you talk about the biggest thing that will drive your customers away, it's that third bullet. I'm same way as a customer. If I don't have a good customer experience because it's so important to me, it's in my DNA, but it's something that I value very much in a business that I have a relationship with. If I don't get a good customer experience, and I think most of us are all the same way, I'm going to look to take my business elsewhere. And then again, those basic questions, understanding the cost to deliver your service and to measure overall profit per line of business offered. There are numerous tool platforms that are going to allow even the smallest organization, or if you're on this webinar live or if you're listening to the playback, if you are not the decision maker in your company or the company you work for, there's nothing, if you're a sales rep, there's nothing that would stop you. I see it all the time. Sales reps go out and they fix it for themselves. And those are the best sales reps. And sometimes they just kind of keep it to themselves, but they know the value of these tools. So just keep in mind, they are so cost effective. There's great free versions of the tools out there. And I'm going to give you the names of some of the tool platforms to look at.
So just
Yep,
a
I was
pause.
just about to pause for questions.
So in that regard, if a business is grappling with, well, what do they do next? They've been going through COVID. They realize that they need to be cloud-based. And they realize it's potentially going to be a rather painful process. How much time do they need? What is the cost going to look like? Let's say for a 15-person business. I don't know how exactly you'll estimate that, but give us some sense of how they should be thinking about that.
Yeah, so you've got, I'm going to actually skip through and go there because that was a great question. So how do I fix it? Okay, so some of the tools, and I am so sorry, some of the tools that I'm talking about, I want to have this conversation with you thinking, because some of you hopefully are using some of these tools. These are the best, and they're CRM platforms, but they're literally operating systems. I'm going to take the last one first. Salesforce is an enterprise tool. And I say that because they do have a smaller business version of their product, but it's still expensive. I see more smaller organizations that are non-enterprise, those really big companies using HubSpot, Zoho One, which is my personal favorite, Pipedrive, and then there's about 10 or 15 more just like those, but those are the big three that will allow an organization to connect their marketing, their sales, their social media. We all have to manage the same things. So those are the platforms out there that allow you to connect your entire business. And then, how do I get there? The first step in the journey is you have to know what your business process looks like. So if you're looking to make this decision for an entire company, you have to map out the business process, whether this is on a whiteboard, whether it's on a cocktail napkin, wherever it is. It just has to be documented so somebody can understand. This is an example of, it's called a mind map, and a mind mapping solution was used for this. But like I said, you can literally do this in an Excel, whatever documentation you're comfortable with. Put it on a whiteboard, take pictures. Lead funnel. Where are all my leads coming from? I have a form on my website. I have a chat feature. Excuse me. I have a chat feature on my website. I have forms on social media. So you have to define all of this. Where does it live? And then some of my leads are coming in manually. Some of them are coming in because we've connected them. Bear with me for just a moment. So you have to map out your business process. And I'm not talking about something that takes weeks to do. It's a very simple workflow for, here are all the things. Here's where my leads come from. This is what happens when a lead comes in. What happens? Who gets it? What does my lead assignment look like? What does my sales process look like? What does my customer onboarding process look like? How do I build customers? It's all of that. So you just really have to define the rules for how your business operates. I would not recommend going into the journey to look at the right platform without this, because you can't get there until you understand this, because you have to tell the software what to do. So each platform has dedicated support and self-paced tutorials. You do need a moderate level of technical skills to do this yourself, and you do need a lot of time to do it yourself. If you have the bandwidth to make the investment of time and you're good with watching videos, you can do this yourself. You're good. You may have to hire somebody for smaller parts of it. Udemy is also a great platform that has a wide variety of very low cost training courses. You can get a training course, a really good training course for HubSpot for like $99 on Udemy. YouTube has a lot of free training videos, but you have to filter through a lot more. And then lastly, you can hire a consultant. And there's a lot of I'm one of the consultants in this industry that helps people get through this process. And this journey has taken me through my professional growth to building a custom application now, the COVID application. That's our first application that's launching to the market next week. So there's lots of consultants out there, but you have to really go through the process. You have to look at the tools that are out there, and if you don't have your process mapped, the consultant is going to do it for you because it has to be done, and they're going to charge you more money. So if you have your business process mapped, it's a lot more economical to get to the finish line. If you have an internal IT resource, get them involved. These are great projects for an internal IT department. They have the technical acumen and skill set to be able to understand how to take a business process from where it is and get the data out of one application, get it in another, and get things connected. So like I said, no matter which application you choose, there are an army of consultants out there in the world that will help you get there. But like I said, it could be costly. And if costs are a concern, which, every business is being very practical with every dollar that they spend, that upfront thought in the process will help that experience be a lot more economical for you when you're bringing in a consultant. And just go out on the internet and Google, and you will find, like I said, there's armies of them out there. There's not one particular place that everyone's hanging out in, but if you narrow in on the right platform for yourself, HubSpot, Zoho One, Pipedrive, Salesforce, they all, if you reach out to the company, they will assign your contact information to a sales representative that can talk to you and help guide you through the process. Most of these platforms will give you a lot of upfront time free when you go directly to them, and they'll help you get in touch with the best consultants to meet your needs. I am a sales partner with Zoho One. Like I said, that is hands down my favorite application. I've done a lot of work with Salesforce in my past life, which is the cream of the crop on CRMs, and it's also the most expensive. Zoho One for a small business does everything that Salesforce can do for a lot less money. So I hope, Teri, that those slides addressed that question and provided a little bit more color on how do I get there? What's next? I know I need this. How do I get there?
Absolutely. And I believe you have a few more slides, and I want to make sure that if you want to touch on them. And while you're getting there, let me just ask you one of my last questions, because the time has flown.
It
And
has. This went by quickly.
I know we come to the almost the end of the hour, and I'm just going to try to get a few more things in here. So I alluded to this before, where companies are expecting their business partners to be able to show them that they're taking defensive measures regarding their supply chain and financial security. Can you give us some examples of how a virtual toolkit has helped your client organizations become more resilient against risk and benefited their overall business and customer base?
Yeah, so let me take one part of that first, because those are all like very different, boxes or functional areas. So inventory management, a lot of businesses, the emerging trend that I see from, all the places that I hang out and read and consume is a lot of businesses can't carry as much inventory as they used to because they can't, there's always a loss of some inventory, as a business. So a lot of businesses are going towards what I've heard labeled as a just-in-time inventory model, which means you don't order
Yeah.
the inventory until you know what the customer demand is, and the customer demand now equals a payment or a down payment. So if you have to completely shift your supply chain to be more agile, you can't do that without tools because customer demand is measured on the sales side. So if you don't have a direct connection between your inventory on what do you have in, your facilities or wherever your inventory is acquired from, or where that inventory lives, if you don't have a direct connection between what customers are demanding and the level of commitment they have made, and then that's connecting your whole sales process with your inventory process. You cannot make those transitions as a business that we are all being forced to make, whether it's because of COVID, whether it's because of climate change, because you have a supplier that has completely gone down because they are in an unsafe area and they can't operate, and you got to shift everything to the other end of the country. If your tools aren't connected, those changes become very painful. And those are the types of changes that can put a business out of business.
Yeah.
So again, I think a nice visual way to wrap up that question is these are all the things that you have to do. Oh, and I'm sorry, this addresses the other part of the question: marketing and sales, your team, your customers. These are all the things that you need to support those processes. This is what these functional areas of your business translate to as far as tools, capabilities. And these are the things, when you look at a roadmap for your company, these are the things you have to peel off. And it's a journey, and it's not an easy journey, but it is a very fruitful journey because you're going to have a better customer experience. You think about in the COVID app falls very nicely in managing your team. You have to keep your employees safe. So hopefully that's a nice visual way to answer that question, Teri.
It is, and thank you. Coming close to the end of our time, I'm wondering if you have any concluding thoughts, because before I ask you my last question.
Um, I don't. I think, Teri, I'd like, to tell the world, all of our participants that you're in the middle of taking this journey. So if you could give the entire audience one or two words, I'm totally putting you on the spot, to describe your journey so far, connecting your entire business in this area, what would those words be?
It would be relief, at times frustration, but overall excitement that I am finally beginning to manage a 21st century virtual 24/7 365 business, because that's what it takes for me to compete.
And I think that, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to watch the replay of this to get that quote, because that was a great quote. And I think, let's not glaze over the fact that you said, yes, it's frustrating. Like I said, this is not an easy journey for anyone to take. But if it doesn't hurt, you're not growing. And those are
That's right.
words that I live by.
So, Andrea, would you share with us something about how your cats help you maintain your mental health during COVID?
Well, I know that the question, because I have been a participant in many of your fabulous webinars in the past, I know that you usually ask a question about how your sourdough recipe is coming along. And I've shared with you that I'm a terrible baker. So yes, my therapy is my cats. And all I have to say is fur babies rock. And they have given me so much therapy, and I truly, truly love the extra time that I get at home with them. And I love the things that I see on social media that everybody else that's a part of this amazing club, which includes you as well, Teri. I'm sure that you getting that break and walking your dog and getting some fresh air is one of the highlights of your day. And sometimes we all get to do that a little bit
It
more.
is.
And my cats are indoor cats, but I like to take breaks and spend a little time with them. Treat time is a big deal in my house every day. So it's been good therapy for me. Thank you for asking.
And thank you for sharing. Okay, I'm going to take back control of the meeting just to thank our audience. And
Okay.
let me do that. And let me put my camera on, and I want to thank you, Andrea, for generously sharing your time and expertise to address these critical issues concerning business risk. Andrea's slides, along with a summary and a recording link to this webinar, will be posted on my website. The recording will be on my YouTube channel. Andrea has let me know that she's welcome for you to directly outreach to her regarding the small business partners and how they can help your company manage business risk. LINKCO Executive Search provides elite companies with top CXOs and upper management nationwide using a proprietary step-by-step process for both clients and candidates. We are on 24/7, 365. When you need help, please call upon us. The next webinar in my series is on November 18th. It's going to be in the morning at 9 to accommodate East Coast and European participants with Matthew Stanislaus, who is the interim director of the Global Battery Alliance of the World Economic Forum, entitled How Battery Innovation Creates Economic and Social Opportunity and Mitigates Climate Risk. Please reserve your seat and stay tuned for additional topics and speakers, and let me know what other topics you'd like to have in the series, what would be useful for your business sector. The webinar registration links can be found on my website and in the events section of my LINKCO LinkedIn page. Have a good day. Stay safe.